Hello true cultivators, how are you all doing? I apologize for not uploading the past few days. I hope you are all doing well and that your cultivation journey in pursuit of fortune is going smoothly. How's our brother Xiao Yan? I bet many of you can't wait to see what happens next in his story. Alright, let's continue.
The story continues with Xiao Yan, who successfully won the match and defeated a level 6 alchemist from the Cheng clan. This astonished everyone present. The two white-haired men behind Liu King slowly breathed in, their hearts filled with joy at this moment. They asked if the young man, who was a level 7 alchemist, was truly a friend of the clan leader. Liu King's heart unconsciously swelled with pride when he heard the disbelief in the elder's tone. These two elders might be the senior members of Liu King's clan, but they had always objected to Liu King being chosen as the clan leader. Today, Liu King happened to be able to use Xiao Yan's reputation to quell their enthusiasm. He promptly responded in a weak voice, saying that if Xiao Yan were not his friend, did they really think anyone else would intervene? The two elders smiled sheepishly when they heard Liu King's words, but they did not reply, realizing that if Liu King truly had a level 7 alchemist as a friend, it would certainly bring great joy to the Liu clan. Meanwhile, on the other side, Xiao Yan looked at Chief Chuo and then asked if he could know the final outcome of the match. After hearing Xiao Yan's question, Elder Chuo quickly glanced at Zhengshu in the distance, whose fate was unknown. He then smiled and said that the young friend's strength was truly remarkable. Therefore, the victory would naturally belong to Xiao Yan. Additionally, the right to manage the wormhole in Tianwang City for the next 3 years would belong to the Liu clan. Chen Yu's expression turned very unpleasant when he heard Chief Chuo's words. However, because of the other party's status, he could only clench his fist tightly, no matter how dissatisfied he was. Meanwhile, across from him, Liu King's face was filled with joy. He clasped his hands towards Elder Chuo and thanked him. Elder Chuo waved his hand and smiled, then turned his eyes to Xiao Yan. He immediately asked if he could know the young man's name. Xiao Yan smiled, clasped his hands, and said that his name was Yang Xiao. Elder Chuo laughed and then said that young friend Yang Xiao already had such achievements at his age, which was truly unbelievable. He then asked which great person had become young friend's teacher. Xiao Yan smiled again and said that his teacher was just a mountain hermit and could not be considered a great person. Seeing that Xiao Yan did not want to talk more about this topic, Elder Chuo quickly closed his mouth. Although he was an elder from the Burning Flame Valley, he was only a Duzong expert, and he still maintained a respectful tone towards a level 7 alchemist. After that, Elder Chuo glanced at Liu King and said that the wormhole in Tianwang City would be managed by the Liu clan for the next 3 years starting today. All Liu King had to do was to send tributes to Burning Flame Valley on time every year. In response, Liu King smiled and nodded as he naturally realized that the wormhole indeed generated good income. It had been a rule for years that they had to pay a portion of the income as a sign of respect to Burning Flame Valley. Then, Elder Chuo quickly glanced at Xiao Yan and said that the outcome of who would manage the wormhole next had been decided. He asked if Yang Xiao had time to come to Burning Flame Valley. Xiao Yan pondered for a moment when he heard the question. At this moment, he was indeed very interested in Burning Flame Valley, of course, because of the mysterious Skyfire 3 change and the so-called 9-dragon lightning flame. Not long after that, Xiao Yan asked if he could know why Burning Flame Valley was looking for high-level alchemists. Elder Chuo quickly said, the Valley Head wants to refine high-level medicinal pills and needs the cooperation of some high-level alchemists. Young friend Yang Xiao can rest assured that this matter will not be difficult. Burning Flame Valley will highly value Yang Xiao's assistance once he successfully helps them. Xiao Yan was unconsciously surprised after hearing Liu King's explanation. Someone who was not an alchemist but could refine medicinal pills. This Burning Flame Valley head indeed had extraordinary power. This was the first time Xiao Yan had heard of such a thing in many years. However, Xiao Yan also understood that it was something that depended on heavenly flames and the control one had over them. Without the extraordinary spiritual power of a true alchemist who could see everything within the medicinal pill, the refined pill usually had small imperfections. Xiao Yan muttered, it seems that the heavenly flame relied upon by the Burning Flame Valley head is the 9-dragon lightning flame. There is still some time before the pill gathering begins, and perhaps he could take this opportunity to go to Burning Flame Valley and acquire the remaining 2 techniques. The mysterious Skyfire 3 change is very important to Xiao Yan, and if he can complete this secret technique, his combat power is likely to soar. If he encounters an expert like Fishin in the future, he could fight directly against him. Then, Xiao Yan said, since he has intervened, he will naturally not back down. Elder Chuo sighed in relief when he heard Xiao Yan's words. The smile on his face also widened, and he immediately waved his hand until a large bird arrived. He quickly said if that's the case, he will be waiting for Xiao Yan above. Elder Chuo then jumped and landed on the bird's back after his voice echoed. After Chief Chuo disappeared, Linian immediately approached Xiao Yan and asked if he really planned to go to Burning Flame Valley. Linian realized that he had the mysterious Skyfire change, and if this was discovered by Burning Flame Valley, it could potentially cause some problems. In response, Xiao Yan nodded and said that one cannot gain anything if they do not take risks. Moreover, the Burning Flame Valley head was the one who needed Xiao Yan's help this time. As long as Xiao Yan acted wisely, it should not be too difficult for him to obtain the complete version of the mysterious Skyfire change. Shortly, Liu King said that he had heard that quite a few alchemists had been invited to Burning Flame Valley this time, all of whom had some skills. If they succeeded in helping the Burning Flame Valley head refine the medicinal pill, he was sure the rewards would be great. With Burning Flame Valley's reputation, they would not harm anyone. Xiao Yan then smiled and told Linian that she should stay in Tianwangxi during this period, as Xiao Yan would return after it was over. Then, Xiao Yan glanced at Liu King and said that there was something Xiao Yan needed from him. Liu King said that Xiao Yan could tell him anything he wanted, and he would do his best to help Xiao Yan. Xiao Yan then explained that he wanted Liu King to help him investigate any information related to a woman named Fairy Dr. Xiao, or Xiao Yixian, in the Central Plains during this period. Additionally, Xiao Yan wanted Liu King to help him investigate a clan. There was a girl named Xinlin, and Xiao Yan wanted to know the background of her clan. Liu King nodded and said, I have never heard of the name Fairy Dr. Xiao, but I will send some people to the Pill region to investigate. As for the girl named Xinlin, it will be a bit difficult to investigate. According to Liu King, it seemed that the name was not a family name. There were countless clans of various sizes in the Central Plains, and finding her clan was no different from searching for a needle in a haystack. Hearing this, Xiao Yan quickly said that the Xinlin clan seemed to have once entered the Pill Tower Elder's seat, but their names should have been removed as they no longer held that position. Liu King's expression immediately changed slightly after hearing Xiao Yan's words. A clan that could enter the Pill Tower Elder's seat was not an ordinary faction. Even if their name had been removed, their strength must still be something that could not be compared with his Liu clan. Liu King pondered for a moment before finally saying that since the scope of the search had now narrowed, he would handle this matter. He would have it resolved by the time Xiao Yan returned. Xiao Yan nodded, then clasped his hands towards Liu King and immediately jumped onto the bird's back. After everything was ready, Elder Chiguo, along with Xiao Yan, swiftly headed to Burning Flame Valley. Burning Flame Valley is located in the Roasting Fire Mountain Range in the southwestern part of the central region. These mountains are entirely formed by hot volcanoes, and at first glance, it presents a monotonous dark red color. To make a long story short, Xiao Yan was almost there when Elder Chuo started speaking. He said that this is the Roasting Fire Mountain Range, and the headquarters of Burning Flame Valley is located within it. The Roasting Fire Mountain Range is filled with fire affinity energy. However, because of the volcanoes that are active throughout the year, this energy contains some violence within it. If someone wants to absorb it, they need to expel the violence within. Otherwise, their mind will be affected after training for a long time. Hearing this, Xiao Yan smiled and nodded. Although Xiao Yan did not need to fear this violent energy due to the heavenly flames protecting him, he clearly appreciated the goodwill shown by Elder Chigo. After that, Elder Chigo explained that besides that, there are many magical beasts in the Roasting Fire Mountain Range. The magical beasts here are even wilder and fiercer compared to other places. Moreover, the Roasting Fire Mountain Range is vast and seemingly endless. Even Burning Flame Valley has not explored some areas within it. Therefore, young friend Yang Xiao should be careful if he chooses to travel alone. Hearing this, Xiao Yan immediately smiled and thanked Elder Chivo for the warning. To make a long story short, they finally arrived. Xiao Yan and Elder Chuo then jumped off the bird's back. After that, Elder Chuo smiled and asked Xiao Yan to follow him. A moment later, their footsteps stopped at the edge of a stone staircase. While walking to this point, Xiao Yan noticed that there was a spatial barrier around. Xiao Yan gently pressed his hand against the spatial barrier, and immediately a surprising force emerged. Xiao Yan then murmured, "What a sturdy spatial barrier." Realizing this, Elder Chuo laughed and said that this spatial wall had been reinforced by the Burning Flame Valley head for several generations. The wall was capable of blocking attacks from an elite Dao Zun, and an ordinary Dao Zong would not be able to break it. Xiao Yan was unconsciously surprised to realize that a spatial barrier capable of blocking attacks from an elite Dao Zun was something that could not be compared to ordinary factions. Elder Chuo laughed and then took out a fiery red jade token from his storage ring and placed it on the spatial barrier. Immediately, a strange ripple spread, causing the spatial barrier to automatically separate slowly. Elder Chuo then entered, followed by Xiao Yan after being instructed by Elder Chimuo. Once inside, Xiao Yan was even more surprised to see many buildings hidden behind the greenery. Xiao Yan murmured that this place was worthy of being one of the 3 great valleys because it could create its own realm. Hearing this, Elder Chuo quickly waved his hand and said that this should not be considered creating a realm. Such an ability could only be done by a Dao Sheng level existence. However, after being built by generations of valley heads from Burning Flame Valley, this place could indeed be considered an artificial place among the volcanic world. Xiao Yan smiled, then reached out to the empty air in front of him and felt that the fire affinity energy in this place was as dense as in the outside world, but the violence within it had disappeared, clearly purified. Not long after, many agile figures approached Xiao Yan, but upon seeing the presence of Elder Chivuo, their vigilance immediately decreased. They quickly clasped their hands towards Elder Chivuo, who immediately waved his hand. After that, Elder Chivuo invited Xiao Yan to enter and flew towards the deepest part of the valley. Soon, discussions filled with surprise could be heard after seeing the young figure at the Duzong level. One of them nodded and said, only one abnormal person like Miss Hor is already troublesome. It would indeed be too troublesome if there were more people like them. Meanwhile, on the other side, Elder Chivuo and Xiao Yan had arrived at a hall. Elder Chivuo quickly said that it seemed that some other Grandmaster alchemist had also arrived. Xiao Yan immediately asked what the valley head of Burning Flame Valley wanted to refine and what the purpose was for Burning Flame Valley to gather so many alchemists. Elder Chuo smiled and explained that they did not need many alchemists. Rather, the goal was to find 1 or 2 suitable people among the alchemists. Of course, even if an alchemist was not chosen, Burning Flame Valley would still prepare great rewards for them. Therefore, young friend Yang Xiao need not worry about that. Xiao Yan was surprised and thought that this seemed like a selection process. If Xiao Yan was not chosen, he might have to give up on the Skyfire 3 mysterious change. He did not think that Burning Flame Valley would easily hand over their secret techniques to others. Xiao Yan murmured that he really needed to wait and see what would happen. After that, they continued walking with Xiao Yan determined to obtain the mysterious Skyfire change no matter what happened. Soon, they arrived at a large room where Elder Chuo bowed to the leading seat in the Grand Hall. He sent to Valley Head that Chivo had come to report the completion of his mission, and that the Grandmaster alchemist he recommended in Tianwang City had arrived. At this moment, there were about 10 figures sitting inside the Grand Hall. Most of them wore alchemist robes, and from their appearance, it was clear that they were quite old. There was a thin old man with red hair and simple linen clothing sitting in the leader's seat in the hall. Meanwhile, next to him stood a beautiful woman with red hair dressed in red. Shortly after that, the old man sitting in the leader's seat immediately said that Chuo was the last to complete his task this time. He continued by asking why Chuo didn't directly allow the Grandmaster alchemist to enter. Upon hearing this, all the alchemists there immediately turned their gazes with great interest. Realizing this, Elder Chiwu immediately shouted and said, "Young friend Yang Xiao, please enter." More than 10 alchemists in the hall, who had some reputation in the Central Plains, were slightly surprised when they heard the manner of address from Elder Chivo. They had never heard of a Grandmaster alchemist named Yang Xiao appearing in the Central Plains. At the same time, a thin figure slowly walked into the hall. The young face of Xiao Yan became visible as they entered the hall, and the room immediately fell silent. Xiao Yan paid no heed to the unusual appearance at the moment, then clasped his hands and said, "Yang Xiao greets the Valley Head." At that moment, Xiao Yan faintly felt pressure when he entered the hall. Xiao Yan clearly sensed that the source of this pressure came from the thin old man who didn't look intimidating in front of him. Meanwhile, in front of Xiao Yan, the red-haired old man was also surprised when he saw Xiao Yan, but he managed to hide his emotions very well and did not expose them in any way. His eyes slowly swept towards Xiao Yan until finally the surprise in his eyes became more evident. He immediately laughed and said that the young friend was too polite. The man immediately introduced himself as Tangzhen. He continued, "It's quite surprising that this young friend has reached the Duzong class at such a young age. Such talent is truly very rare." A few astonishments were immediately heard in the large hall when Tangzhen's words were spoken. The Grandmaster alchemists sitting there revealed expressions of surprise as they looked at Xiao Yan. The red-dressed woman beside Tangzhen also used strange eyes to look at Xiao Yan with a bit of doubt in her eyes. Being someone who stood out from the younger generation, she clearly understood how difficult it was to reach the Duzong class at such an age. Moreover, what made her disbelief was that Xiao Yan seemed younger than her. Not long after that, Xiao Yan immediately said Valley Head Tangzhen has praised Xiao Yan excessively. This situation happened because Xiao Yan's luck is slightly better compared to ordinary people. Responding to this, an old man in alchemist robes beside Tangzhen immediately said, Being able to have such luck is also considered a skill. However, what we need today is not a Du Zong level elite, but a true Grandmaster Alchemist. He continued, addressing Elder Chibuo. Are you sure you didn't bring the wrong person? Responding to that, Elder Chibuo narrowed his eyes slightly and then said, Grandmaster Mo can be assured that I still have some sight. This young friend indeed meets the requirements stated by the Valley Head. The expression of the man named Elder Mo immediately turned unpleasant. Then he immediately glanced towards Xiao Yan. Meanwhile, Tanjin immediately said, if that is true as Elder Chuo mentioned, then the talent of this young friend might far exceed my daughter's talent. It's not a simple matter to achieve greatness in alchemist skills while reaching the Du Zong class at the same time. Hearing these words, the woman standing beside him immediately said, Father, are you not drawing conclusions too quickly just because you've heard it from others? At this moment, the woman seemed to feel a sense of competition as she had never encountered a peer in the same generation comparable to her all this time. Meanwhile, on the other side, Xiao Yan only smiled in response to the words from the woman in the red dress. Xiao Yan could sense that this woman did not have any ill intentions, but she was a bit dissatisfied with the words Tanjin had spoken earlier. Shortly after, Tanjin smiled and asked Xiao Yan to find a seat. Xiao Yan nodded with a smile and was then led to his seat in the Grand Hall by Elder Chiwo beside him. After that, Elder Chiwo immediately explained that the Grandmaster Mo, who had spoken earlier, was a Tier 6 alchemist. He was capable of refining medicinal pills at the peak of Tier 6. If given a few more years, he would likely reach Tier 7. Indeed, his mouth is a bit harsh, but act as if Yang Xiao didn't hear his words, Elder Chiwo explained. Xiao Yan slightly nodded after hearing these words. Elder Chivuo continued with the skills of young friend Yang Xiao. You need to pay attention to that old man. What you need to do is pay attention to the two people sitting next to the Valley Head. Xiao Yan immediately glanced at the two elders sitting to the left and right of Tanjin. Their auras were restrained, but Xiao Yan could still vaguely sense the profound spiritual power permeating the area beside these two individuals. Xiao Yan wondered to himself and murmured that they were likely Tier 7 alchemists. After that, Elder Chiwu gently explained further that these two enjoyed great reputations in the Central Plains. One reason was their exceptional alchemical skills, while another was that they were external elders of the Pill Tower. Even the Valley Head was very respectful towards them. Xiao Yan's heart was slightly shaken upon realizing that the title External Elder of the Pill Tower was quite astonishing. Not long after, Tanjin immediately said, since everyone has arrived, I will speak briefly about the matter at hand. I think everyone is aware that I wish to refine a medicinal pill. The medicinal pill Tanjin desired was a high-tier, Tier 7 pill. The expressions of all the Grandmasters present in the hall slightly changed upon hearing this. The two external elders of the Pill Tower also slowly opened their eyes after hearing Tanjin's words. They said, a Tier 7 medicinal pill is something that even we cannot refine. Although we are both Tier 7 alchemists, we can only refine a few low-tier, Tier 7 pills. Our success rate in refining mid-tier pills might be half, but if it is a high-tier pill, our success rate will be very dismal. In response, Tanjin immediately said, you can leave that matter to me. Although I am not an alchemist, there are some abilities I possess that none of you have. What I need are two alchemists who can withstand my 9 dragon lightning flame. After saying this, Tanjin gently clenched his hand and a silver flame slowly rose from his hand. Along with it, 9 faintly visible silver dragon flames swirled within the fire. Xiao Yan's eyes slightly narrowed as he saw the silver flames and asked, is this the 9 dragon lightning flame? After that, Tanjin smiled and then instructed everyone to release their spiritual power. If you can withstand the roasting of my 9 dragon lightning flames, you will meet the qualification standard. Instantly, everyone was shocked, realizing that the 9 dragon lightning flame was a heavenly flame ranked 12th among the heavenly flames. No one present was unaware of its power. Moreover, with Tanjin's unexpected strength, ordinary spiritual power would most likely be burned to nothingness upon contact with it. Although the spiritual power of those present was not weak, they could not bear such a test. Realizing this, the two external elders of the Pill Tower pondered for a moment before finally speaking. They said, everyone is surely aware of how powerful the 9 dragons are. The dragon power gathered in this heavenly flame has a magical effect that astonishes the soul. It seems that almost no one here can use their spiritual power to withstand it. In response, Tanjin smiled and then said, Grandmaster Huan, rest assured. I know the limits in this matter. I will not allow anyone to get hurt. As long as someone can endure for 10 minutes in the flame, that person will be considered to have passed. Furthermore, the person who will assist me must have the ability to withstand the 9 dragon lightning flame, or else they will be injured. After that, Tangjin's eyes swept across the large hall and said, "Since I have invited all the Grandmaster alchemists to attend, I certainly will not let anyone waste their journey. Even if they cannot withstand the 9-dragon lightning flame, the Burning Flame Valley will still give everyone a great reward." Not long after, a white-haired man immediately said, "Since Valley Head Tang has said such a thing, it is only natural that we will not act as cowards. Therefore, we will take the test as mentioned by the Valley Head." Tangjin immediately smiled and snapped his fingers, and the flame immediately flew forward. He asked which Grandmaster would like to try first. Silence ensued until an old man with white hair stepped forward. He clasped his hands and said, "Since no one wants to start, allow me to give it a try. I have long heard of the 9-dragon lightning flame from Burning Flame Valley. This journey will not be in vain if I can test its power today." Upon hearing this, Elder Chigu immediately said, "This elder is named Huchin. He is also an alchemist at the peak of Tier 6. He has a considerable reputation in the Central Plains." Xiao Yan nodded, grateful to Elder Chibo for the information provided. Meanwhile, the old man named Huchin immediately clenched his fist and a cluster of dark red flames appeared. Then his spiritual power emerged and entered the silver flame. As soon as the dark red flame entered the silver flame, a roar was heard. At the same time, the newly entered spiritual power instantly disappeared into nothingness. Kochin smiled bitterly, shaking his head after steadying himself, and said, "That flame is indeed worthy of being called a heavenly flame. Since I couldn't withstand the pressure of the heavenly flame, I admit defeat." Several Grandmaster alchemists present couldn't help but change their expressions when they saw that Huchin couldn't last even a minute. They each took turns trying the heavenly flame in front of them. None of them managed to endure for 10 minutes, including the old man named Mo, who had mocked Xiao Yan earlier. Tangjin's face remained emotionless, but deep down, he felt a tinge of disappointment. At this point, the only ones who hadn't tried were the 2 external elders from the Pill Tower and Xiao Yan. Naturally, Xiao Yan was ignored by others. Nearly everyone's gaze was fixed on these 2 external elders. After all, they were the only true Tier 7 alchemists in the Grand Hall. The external elder from the Pill Tower, called Grandmaster Huan, was the first to take a deep breath. He then stepped forward, and immediately a white flame rose from his palm. Seeing the unusual flame, Tangjin was surprised and murmured, "This is the Sky Cold Flame. Grandmaster Huan's flame must have been obtained from the body of a sky-bone python." It's said that sky-bone pythons appear in areas where the bone-chilling flame appears. The beast flame inside its body resembles the bone-chilling flame. On the other hand, Xiao Yan raised his eyebrows after hearing Tangjin's words. He was surprised when he studied the sky-cold flame in Grandmaster Huan's hand. It was unexpected that this flame had some connection to his teacher's bone-chilling flame. After that, Grandmaster Huan immediately shaped his spiritual power into a python that instantly entered the silver flame. After a while, Grandmaster Huan's expression became increasingly serious. The sky-cold flame might be somewhat related to the bone-chilling flame, but in the end, it was not a heavenly flame. Time flowed quickly in the quiet Grand Hall. Just as the white fire python was about to be completely swallowed by the 9 dragon flames, a 10-minute mark finally arrived. Grandmaster Huan hurriedly gestured with his hand, and the python quickly escaped. Grandmaster Huan sighed before Tangjin smiled and congratulated him for succeeding. After that, Grandmaster Huan returned to his seat and asked his friend, Grandmaster Xiao, to step forward. He stepped forward and released a flame from his body. From Xiao Yan's perspective, Grandmaster Xiao's flame was not as strong as his friend's. Finally, as expected by Xiao Yan, when the time reached the 7th minute, the blue flame couldn't last any longer and instantly tore apart and disappeared into nothingness. Seeing this, Tangjin couldn't help but feel disappointed in his heart. He said that at the moment, only Grandmaster Huan had succeeded, while he needed 2 alchemists. Shortly afterward, an old white-haired man suddenly shouted, "Isn't there still 1 Grandmaster alchemist left?" Instantly, all eyes turned to Xiao Yan. Tangjin hesitated for a moment before finally asking, "Does young friend Yang Xiao wish to give it a try?" Xiao Yan smiled slightly, then nodded and said, "Since I have come to Burning Flame Valley, naturally, I must participate in the test."